A man's won a legal battle with his sister over £700,000 will. That's after a video which was used in court showed his sister propelling their mother's hand to sign a deathbed will which left her the entire estate. Now, it's obviously, you know, it's a really extreme example of what could happen in these situations, but disputes over inheritance are actually on the rise, and the increase in blended families mean that wills are often not divided out equally. In fact, a survey found that almost half of people believe it is fair to leave different sums of money to different relatives. So presumably you don't give all your children an equal amount. What do you make of that, Judes?
Oh, I mean, it really depends on your own personal circumstances, because, you know, you might have some children that have been there a little bit more compared to others. I mean, personally, I probably would just leave the same to both, you know, and probably the older one would probably get more through life because they've been here longer. But I think the issue with the wills, like, you know, some of those things is financial abuse, you know, and I think with wills, it's such an important conversation and something that I've experienced in family dynamics of it not being done. And at that point where they have passed away, there's this whole issue of, like, where the money I got come from, da-da-da-da-da, all that. Sorry, I always go back into my Jamaican accent.
You've been through it.
Yeah, and, you know, and all of that kind of worry. And as well, if I'm honest with you, it's a hard conversation to have, you know, with that person or even with yourself. You know, when I done mine...
Is it a hard conversation? Because we've talked about this.
Yes, because of you, I got myself together. But it was a hard conversation because I was, like, a childcare and other things that I'd gone through. And, you know, I remember doing it. And then afterwards, I had this real emotional feeling. And I was saying to you guys, like, I was quite tearful. And at first, I couldn't understand what it was. And I thought, let me sit with it. And then when we were speaking about it, you know, I was in tears because there was a uncomfortability of, like, oh, my gosh, you might be speaking something to the universe. But actually, I realised...
But, like, a fear that because you've done it, you could...
Exactly, something could happen, but then the other real underlying issue, without me getting emotional, was that feeling of breaking a generational curse. You know, that feeling of, like, I've done maybe what my parents couldn't do. I've put myself in a situation that I can do this before something has happened, before it's that time when you're older or you haven't got capacity.
What, you felt that your mum would have loved to have done that?
Don't. I mean, honestly, you know, my mum, there was things that was done, but, you know, coming from that generation, Windrush generation, working so hard, she was a single parent, she did what she could do when she was alive, and unfortunately, when she passed away, things were so much different. So now being at a stage where I've been able to do that without there being a trauma, without there being a last minute, you know,
worked hard and built something.
and I was in tears, and it's an emotional feeling, but actually it's something that I celebrate, and I think my mum would be very proud of that.
I think that's so beautiful because what you've done in a way is talk about the will and about how that has been like a very difficult emotion. That's a huge leap. When we always say that we feel like we know your mum because of the way that you talk about her.
Don't worry, she's here, she's here.
I feel, and that would be an incredible thing for her, that you've shifted, you know, shifted everything along for your kids.
Definitely.
Would you, have you done a will, Nads?
Oh. Have
I got to have a chat with you as well?
So on the question of whether you should leave everything equally for your children, I would say no. Because I don't think you owe anyone anything after you have died, right? And I think some people have kids that are absolutely vile. And vile to them. And have let them down or behaved badly or have been mean or nasty or unkind. It's not a right to get your inheritance. It's something... But having said that, I do think it's a very, very difficult thing to play around with because I think often what you give somebody, yes, money and everything, but most people want more money, but it says something about the way that you felt about that person. That's what happened. So siblings that might have always got on really well may suddenly, all the stuff that they might have suppressed when they were younger comes up because daddy's given them something extra or mummy's given them something extra. So I do think it's a very dangerous thing, and I think that you shouldn't have to say what you've given to each person.
Yeah, but you have to, because anyone who's sort of in the will ought to be present when that will is read. But also, it helps with situations if you feel as though, just like with this case, that you think something is awry and something doesn't quite seem right. If everybody doesn't know what they got, then if there is a situation where someone has committed fraud, essentially, you won't be able to find that out if everybody's not aware. So it has to be open. And actually, the person who wrote up the will and created the will isn't there anymore. So any uncomfortable situations, they don't have to deal with anyway.
And don't you think as well, it's also good just for if everything is all right with your family, so that they don't have to go through the stress, of having to sort everything out.
And that also tears families apart.
That does.
But you know people who the family really was torn apart by this.
Yeah, they were. A friend of mine's family, and that it happened to them. So, but yeah, it can be really, really difficult. But like, I've got 3 children, 1 by my first partner, 2 by my second partner. So, I mean, I put off doing a will for a long, long time, but I'm going to be 67 next week. So I just thought, before I pop my clogs, I better sort it all out. So what I've done is I've left everything evenly to the 3 of them, because obviously my partner with 2 children, he's going to look after his 2 kids, but I've got to make sure I look after my eldest daughter as well, and my granddaughters as well. So it's a very difficult thing to... And as soon as I've done it, I thought, I'm going to die now. It's I did, because so long.
You got a little bit of that, didn't you, with your guy that did your will?
Oh, my God, my guy, I tell you, honestly, Alfred, he was very, Alfred, very... Yeah, no, that was his assistant, but Alfred was very middle class. And he was just so, nonchalant with it. He was like, yes, in the case of your death. And I was saying to him, Richard, calm down. He was speaking out to the universe. He goes, well, how old are you? I was like, oh, I'm 40-something. He was like, OK, well, you shouldn't live long, but in case of a horrible, ghastly accident, I was like, oh, Alfred, please. There was no emotion, but he was quite...
I was like, what did you want him to do? Well up? He's doing this over and over again.
To well up. I wanted him to say to me, it's all right, I wanted him to have a conversation, but he was like, is there anybody else? It was about the business. But sometimes you need that, because listen, when I came out there, I was like, Lord God, please.
She felt a little reassured.
So I've got a question. After all this chat, Nadia. What's one of the first things that you're going to do before the end of the week?
Well, how bizarre is this? I left the meeting this morning. I went and sat down and make up. My dear friend Simone, who knew nothing about the meeting, said, do you want my will, man, that we talked about? How freaky is that?
What, today?
No.
Yeah, straight after the meeting. So perhaps she's copied me into an email.
See, it's important. I just think you don't want the disaster and the fallout of your family after your death. Get it sorted. And everyone knows where they stand.
Or spend all the money. Spend all the money.
Yeah, and also, you get to find out which sibling your parent liked more.
Charlie!
So also, we did a poll on this to find out if it should be split equally, and 56% of you said yes. There we go.
As long as they're all nice.
Yeah. It shows how much parents are thinking, one of you.